And we're live. Okay, so hi everybody, and I'm Tara Killen, and I am a birth trauma therapist and a positive psychotherapist. I have an online program that is free to help mothers and fathers with birth trauma healing, and it's at www.mindfulbirth.ie. But we're here tonight because I have started this kind of idea of introducing members of the birth trauma and grief community to you, so that you can see globally who's out there, showcase some of the brilliant work that they're doing, and see if it resonates with you, that you can link in and get some support and some help. Now, I know we've got people watching who are both parents, and we also have birth professionals who want to learn more how to support. So it's quite a mix, which is lovely as well. So it's going to be very educational too. But April, I came across April just like, I don't know, I think it was maybe in January, and I came across her beautiful website, and I'm going to type in all her details here in the chat box so you can see how to contact her. But April, you just really inspired me. Your story really inspired me. Would it be okay for you if I just read a line or two from your website? Would that be okay? Just to introduce. Something that really struck me was this. You said, 3 days after my daughter died, I made a decision. I will not let my destruction be how people remember her. I will not let that be her legacy. And so I decided to survive and share her love and light with the world, and turn this tragedy into a love story. And that just really sang to my heart. And I found everything that you have written and that you have said, and it just is infused throughout your website and everything about you, that there's this beautiful love story that's ongoing, and that your daughter is still making such a positive impact in this world through you, and you both together are. And so I really am so grateful that you agreed to join us and share some of your work and with us. So thank you. So I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, because one, I've never heard anyone read what I wrote before in terms of saying it out loud. So it's a different experience to hear it.
I hope that's okay.
No, that was lovely. Thank you. And I really just want to truly say a heartfelt thank you for the fact that you create space for these kinds of conversations. And so, because for me, this is really twofold. So one, I became clearly very passionate and purpose-driven of just realizing how necessary more of these conversations really are.
Yeah.
And what an absence that there is for these conversations taking place whenever we start getting anywhere near the topics of loss and grief and death. And these are not conversations that, our cultures tend to do, in my opinion, a really good job of making room for, in a way, or allowing.
Yes.
The other piece is that for me, my work and conversations like these are an opportunity for me to carry on with my daughter's love story, and to bring her with me into this space, and to kind of keep her moving forward with me.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for that. So I'll just share with you maybe a little bit about my background and how I came into this. Or another piece of how I came into this.
Yeah.
And so my background is I'm a master's of social work. I'm a social work therapist by trade. And I had been working in this field and supporting people through all kinds of various forms of trauma and pain and suffering and coping. And I had been walking with people through their journeys for about a decade. And then when I experienced my loss of my little girl when she was a day old, my daughter Nora, my work then really took on completely new levels of passion and purpose for what I wanted to do. And I wanted to help create a little bit of what I had struggled to find at that time, which was a place that could definitely bear witness to the magnitude of the pain and the horror of that kind of trauma and experience. But also was able to widen that to include a little bit of hopefulness, or a little bit of the how-to in terms of getting some footholds in a practical way, because I very much was aware, and I think my previous work as a social worker had made me acutely aware that this was a crossroads moment, that you don't come out of this unchanged.
Yeah.
I really wanted to make a specific and conscious decision about which direction I wanted that to take me.
Okay.
So I really didn't know how that was going to take me, how I was going to do that. But I definitely made that intention at that time that I'm going to figure it out, because I don't want to put that legacy for her that that she would be the cause of my suffering, right? My destruction. And so for me, that idea kind of propelled me, or helped motivate me through some of the hard days to get out of bed and get on my yoga mat.
Okay.
Get my butt out the door, or whatever. Because I knew that if we wait until we feel like it, we're not going to do it. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so you would have had, I suppose, a support system available to you, and the network and the tools to know what to do. Would that be true to say, or not?
Well, and so it was an interesting experience. So for me, what I definitely encountered, which I think is part of the universal experience, in my opinion, of loss, which is a lot of isolation. And so while there were certainly people that took a step closer to me, it often felt at times that collectively the rest of society took a few steps back. And you find yourself in a bit of the position of other. So,
and, you know, I think even like I feel anyway that these conversations that we're having, they're important. You know, that we're having a conversation like this, and more needs to be had, because in so many different areas, it's people feel other, and it's only because it's the unknown, and people maybe don't know how to approach or say or what to say. So just being open and talking about it is going to be part of what makes that ripple and that positive difference, isn't it?
I think that's a brilliant point, because what you mentioned is the idea of people don't know what to say, right? And I didn't know what to say. What do you say? So, you know, what would sometimes happen is that we say nothing. And I think that that's a little bit of our really discomfort in talking about the end of life, or really discomfort in talking about mortality. Well, that can sound and feel, you know, a little morbid. We all kind of instinctively want to kind of click away from that, or get a distance from that. I think that there's also such power and beauty in that idea of our time is limited, right? You know this to be true. So maybe there's a different way to approach this topic.
I really agree with you. And, you know, my area is positive psychology, and there's a whole new field of research now into positive death, you know, and approaching death. And instead of this cultural wave of where we all seem to want to turn away from it and be afraid of it and never even think about it, you know, instead of that, to actually approach it and be more appreciative of the limited time that we have, understanding that we, you know, there is going to be an end date for everybody, for all of us.
It's true. None of us, bravest, smartest, wisest of us, are not going to figure out how to escape that.
So, I don't know what about you, but I know with me, it was obviously a completely different experience, in that the trauma part of what happened with me was a birth trauma, and my child survived. However, as a therapist, I would have expected I could have accessed all the help and support that I needed, but wow, I was so wrong. And everyone assumed that I had like postnatal depression rather than say PTSD, you know, and flashbacks and all of that kind of stuff going on. So I'm just wondering, because you are a professional who was in the area of helping people deal with grief, did you find, similar to me, that there was something missing in the work?
Absolutely. And so that for me is really why I went on to create my Love and Loss project, because I'm kind of an ideas person and I'm a bit of a high energy person. So I was always kind of creating, you know, various kinds of tributes or things or activities or projects. Yeah. And so I wanted to just create one. I realized I needed to create one kind of home and heading for that and formalize it. But I wanted that to really address some of that gap. So part of me wanted to create something that could be really accessible. And so part of my experience was I was actually living way out in the country at the time. And so, you know, there was various groups and different things happening that I knew, you know, because of my work, that these are good things to go and do, right? That this is kind of a toolkit. Yeah. For me, it was about an hour, you know, drive away to access some of this stuff.
Okay.
So that's why I think this forum we've been setting up with the online conversation.
Fantastic. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Because it is such a barrier to help, isn't it? That when you have to travel, you know, when you have to travel great distances, and it's fantastic, the advent of technology, as we both have said already, you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but when it works, it's just perfect that you can get to talk and have a conversation with somebody.
And it's accessible, right? Doesn't matter what your budget is, doesn't matter where you are.
Yes.
A lot of the places in the world anyways, this is something that you can access.
Yeah. So tell me about the project itself. If a family have just suddenly been bereaved, or they're aware that they're about to lose a child, is that the point that they enter your program, or is it a little bit further when they're not as raw, or where would you see it fitting?
So I think that any point of entry is a good place to start. And I think that we, in my opinion, we tend to kind of have this idea of therapy that we really wait until I really have no other choice, or my functioning is really being so far impacted that I can't ignore this anymore, so I need to get help, right? That's kind of the phrase that we get at the time. Yeah. And I really view therapy work the same way I think of going to the chiropractor or going to the dentist, or you know, this is kind of just good, healthy living, get through this stuff a little bit easier and potentially in a little bit more of a meaningful way, or more gentle way. And so I think absolutely that really, to me, it's just, you had mentioned that idea of that team approach, right? That it's really just adding a little more support and adding a little bit more cushion and adding a little bit more resource wherever that is. So, and that's why I thought, I noticed your mindfulness program that you've created. So amazing for that as well.
I love the mindfulness. I mean, I'm in my 40s now, but when I was 16, I learned in school, we were taught meditation. And so ever since I've had it, it's really kept me going through most of my life, you know, and good times and bad times. But for the past 20 years, I've been teaching mindfulness to every client I've ever had. And so then about a year ago, I started teaching school children as well as part of my research, and was going around some schools where, you know, young children like age 4 to 12, and then groups of adolescents as well. So it's a real mixture. So I have two programs, and I decided, okay, I can't keep going around individually. It's just, I just don't have the time. I'm an ideas person like you, and I have so many ideas, but I want to kind of use technology to first of all, make things more accessible for people, and secondly, you know, flexible for me too. So yeah, I've got 2 programs almost ready to go for mindfulness related. But
which is incredible because it makes it sustainable, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And now those things you do.
Absolutely. But so, say somebody joins your project. Tell me about the project. What do they?
And so what this looks like, so I think it's an online comfort and inspiration station, because really it's a place that people can come and visit, which has various articles and some videos that I've made that are intended to just be a little dose of comfort, or a little dose of feeling better, or a little bit of dose of hope or vibrancy when you need it. And so people can access that page, of course, anytime, lovelostproject.com. And then I do individual work as well. And so I have clients really kind of all over the globe that I meet with really as a couple or one-to-one, but we access that through Skype, Google Hangouts, or something like that.
Do you know what your Skype name is off the top of your head?
Oh, I'm going to forget it off the top of my head. I'll have
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, if it comes to you again later, just throw it out there. Or people can follow you here too. This is your Twitter handle. It's at Love Lost Project.
That's right. And so people can email me. So if people are wanting to get in contact or looking for consultation on something that they're working on, then absolutely they can reach me at april@lovelostproject.com.
Yeah, I'm just typing that in here for you. Brilliant. And I've been to your website, and I completely agree. Just even as the page loads, you feel that, when the page is loading and I feel this, because the images and the whole feeling and the spirit, it all comes through. It's absolutely beautiful. It is exactly as you say. I believe that it's a station of comfort and inspiration. I noticed you had this beautiful idea of random acts of kindness in the person's memory.
Yeah.
Will you tell us a little bit about that as a tool?
Absolutely. So I certainly can't take credit for the idea, because I think that was actually, I've heard different stories and I've researched different stories, and it's been hard to access where the actual,
where the first one, yeah.
But from what I understand, it's been a long tradition of bereaved mothers that first really got this idea going. And so there's many different versions of it. But what I wanted to do, so each year for me, it's important that I celebrate my daughter's birthday. And so last year I had actually done a fundraising project, and I had helped to fund a maternity home that was being built in Zimbabwe. But I wanted to do something this year that people could participate in without necessarily having to open up their wallets. And so what I created was a random act of kindness scavenger hunt. And so I made a list of about 25 items that might be compliment 3 people, or hold the door open for a stranger, or buy coffee for the first person behind you in line. And so various small, really achievable things like that. And
fantastic.
Yeah. And I gathered a circle of, some of my closest people. And we just really broke into teams and went out into the community. And so my theory was, or my hope was, is that I knew that this day was probably going to be painful, right?
Yeah.
It's going to sting in whatever form that takes this year, right? I knew that train was coming.
Yeah.
But I also thought, okay, so it's going to be painful, but it is also significant, and I want it to also be beautiful. And so I want to share a bit of her light into the community. And so it was amazing. So I'd also opened it up to online, and really there was probably a couple hundred acts that had been done either in her honor, or I'd also really encourage people to on behalf of someone that and have lost, because that's also fantastic.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. So that was really lovely. And so I did an article for that on my blog, and then I had included a printout that people could do of the scavenger hunt itself, but also of little cards that people can use really all the time, which just say this loving act of kindness has been done in memory of, and then people can, if they want to, print that out and use that as a way to honor their loss that's occurred in their life, in wherever and however they choose to do that throughout their daily lives. So
yeah, it's a beautiful idea, and I love that you have it on the website there. You have some little ideas for people to use. Mm-hmm. To go ideas of different random acts that they could choose to do. It's a beautiful idea.
Yeah, and I think because there's that thing of, it doesn't take away the pain, right?
Yeah.
It was not a yay, joy for me. So, it doesn't take away the pain, but Louise Hay has this incredible idea that I like, and I think it actually came from Buddhist ideas originally, but I'm not sure. But she makes reference to it in one of her books, and she says, the pain is inevitable. The suffering is optional.
Yes.
And I think that is an important and slight distinction.
Yeah.
So that's really what I'm interested in empowering people and working with people to do and doing in my own life is we can't take away this. We can't change this. But where can I make this a little more gentle for my small brothers? Where can I make this a little bit softer? Where can I make this a little bit easier?
I find that distinction can be difficult for people to grasp sometimes, the distinction between the suffering and the pain. Could you expand on that a little bit more?
Yes, absolutely. So for example, so one of the things I do is I do a Q&A, and people send in questions and I answer them live on Periscope. And so one of the questions that came in last time was, how do you answer the question when you are at the grocery store and somebody asks you, do you have children, or how many children do you have? And so that's a very innocent, very common, very normal question that we ask each other in society.
Yeah.
But for someone that has lost their child, that is a completely different experience of that moment. And so I'm now in a position where I either have to deny that my child existed because I get too emotional, or this might be a real safe place for me to have this conversation in this particular setting with this particular person.
Yeah.
Or I risk getting into something really awful, right? Emotional. And so that moment of that kind of sucker punch feeling, right, that hits us when we're asked that, we can't change that, right? Yeah. We can't erase that kind of thing or that moment, but we can choose something that makes that moment a little bit easier. And so what I would say then is maybe you give yourself permission to think about, what would self-care look like in this moment? What would be the most respectful thing I could do, both for myself and for my child's memory right now?
Yeah.
Because for some people that maybe I will always reference my child I lost, and that's great if that works for you.
Yeah.
I think we also have to have room to do that differently without feeling guilty.
Yeah.
Entering into a conversation where maybe that person isn't interested in our answer or our story at all, or maybe they don't want to have that conversation besides Fruit Loops and Cheerios. Maybe
absolutely
like the most sacred enough space to talk about my story.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean about the suffering.
I love it. So that idea that in each moment, if you've been hit with the suffering, you've been hit with the pain, then you choose to look at, well, what is the most caring thing I can do for myself in this moment, rather than continuing the suffering. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I know that you mentioned that you talk a lot about self-care, and that is so important. So would you tell us a little bit more about how you approach teaching or giving people tools to be more aware of their self-care?
Sure. Oftentimes when I talk to people about self-care, which, as you know, I do a lot, there's kind of this resistance or wave that people experience that says, ooh, that sounds a lot like selfishness, right? And we were all raised not to be like that. Right? We all know people like that we don't want to be like that. And so what I really just expand that to say is that it's a bit of that airline mask philosophy, right? And so you can't take really good care of all the people around you if you haven't first got a bit of oxygen for your own self. And so sometimes the kindest thing you can do for other people is setting your own boundaries, is giving yourself permission to say no, or to sit this one out, or to ask for what you need. Because the other thing is people can't mind read either. So as much as people love us, adore us, want what's best for us, they also can't read our mind and know exactly what we need on a moment-to-moment basis.
Yes.
Partly because grief is such a landslide, right? So what might be fine for me one day might have been totally opposite for me the next. So self-care is saying, okay, where am I at right now? And what do I do with that piece of information?
Yeah, fantastic. That's brilliant. Would you have any words of wisdom for people who have, say, friends who have lost a child and they don't know how to approach it, or that kind of circle, the next circle out, of how do they support? What do they do?
Absolutely. So I think the first thing is that we kind of need to shake off that pressure of I need to find the magic words, right?
Yeah.
There's really nothing you can say that's going to change the reality of this situation. Yeah. And so kind of shake off that, pressure to have this Oprah moment that makes it all better, because it's not going to be all better.
Yeah.
And so I think the biggest thing that people can do is just be there. And so I use the phrase of saying, okay, I'm going to call you, but you don't need to pick up the phone at all. If you want to just let it go to voicemail, that's totally fine. I'll probably call you again the next day. And if you want to pick up then pick up then. Because often what we do is we task the person and we say, let me know if there's anything you need.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, at certain times of this, I have no idea. I haven't been able to necessarily articulate that and say, I really need company. Could you come over? That might have been a bit like climbing a mountain, right?
Yeah.
And especially some of those earlier stages. And so I think there's that thing of just offer something specific. So if you say, can I come and help out with carpool with the other kids? Or can I drop off, I wanted to drop off dinner. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And so I think it's that idea of getting really specific with what you can do, and letting go of that pressure, right? Because often we say, I don't know what to say, and then so nothing gets said, right?
Yeah. And I think absolutely, it's really, when you think about it, it's so unfair to task somebody who's in the middle of grief with, you think of something, and then if I can do it, I'll do it. That's just, it's not fair at all. It really isn't.
And it's really well intended, right? Because it's a very sincere offer.
Of course.
That offer. It's a very sincere offer.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to do. But if we could take that a step further and just say, do something, right?
Yeah.
For me, the things that people gave me was really nice. So people had sent like little comfort packages to my house, and people had sent flowers. And actually my sister had mentioned at one point that someone had mentioned the idea of sending me flowers, and they said, but I'm kind of nervous to do that because I don't want to remind her of it.
Okay.
My sister's response was perfect, because what she said was, well, she probably hasn't forgotten.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think we're so worried about upsetting people.
Yeah.
We kind of err on the side of being a little too far away.
Yeah. So it's to get right in there. And I think as well, I've noticed that a lot of time people can be very nervous to even bring it up or mention it, or if they know it's an anniversary, to say anything. They're afraid to say anything, exactly as you said, in case they remind the person. But as you said, the reality is nobody's forgetting here. So it's nice for the person to be remembered, and for maybe to hear, hey, I remember,
I think that's huge. And I think that's huge to kind of keep that ball going, because initially in the first few weeks, there's kind of lots of cards and there's lots of people, and that kind of trickles off over time, right? And so I think especially around an anniversary or an important day. And for some people, that's the month, right? So the 23rd of every month, right? So I think it's nice to be mindful of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's lovely. So would you have any advice for parents who are very, have just been bereaved, or who've just lost a child, or a child has died? Would you have any advice for them for what they do straight away?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is that there's kind of no real right or wrong.
Okay.
I think there's that thing of just kind of giving yourself whatever room and space and room for a bit of trying to get through it. So I think the first thing is almost that kind of dropping expectations, because I think one of the things that happens is we still feel like we're supposed to keep functioning at the levels we always have, right?
Yeah.
And so on top of everything else, it's maybe, then we're feeling bad because we're not going and doing this, we're not going and doing that, or we're not getting this done or doing this. And I think the first thing is take time. So that would probably be my biggest thing, is take whatever time you need in whatever form you're able to do that. And then the other thing I would say is, again, the self-care. So this really is a marathon. It's not a short sprint. So rest if you need to rest. Do what you need to do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's just fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. I've really learned so much and really enjoyed holding that space and hearing what you have to say. It's phenomenal.
The last thing I just want to say for that point,
the
biggest piece is just know that you will get through it. You don't have to figure out the how. Just know that you will get through this. You'll look at the how later. Yeah.
I love, there's a saying was going around the internet, a couple of weeks ago, and it was saying that whenever you have like the worst day, just look back and say, well, my record so far of getting through every day has been 100%.
It's true. And I think that's especially true for grief and loss, because in reality, you've already survived the worst moment of this. You have already survived that moment when you found out your heart was still beating and theirs was not. You've already made that through. You've
already gotten through it.
Yeah.
That's really powerful. It's really powerful. Look, thank you so much. And so families can get in touch with you. They can use the Love Loss Project for inspiration and comfort, but they can also directly connect with you if they need to and want to through what we've said there, the links.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, April. I've really enjoyed talking with you. I'm so appreciative of your time.
It was so nice talking with you as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm just so glad that we've had a chance to, bring Nora's light in a little bit more here as well. So thank you. Okay. Thank you. So guys, thanks so much to April. That was just beautiful. And I think the recording did work, so we should have a replay available, and you're welcome to watch it anytime you want to. And that is it for our 3 nights of chatting with other therapists and people who work helping with grief and with loss and with birth trauma. And I hope you've enjoyed the last, we've had 6 people on, and it's been really fantastic. So I hope you've all enjoyed it. And if you haven't already, click on follow me so that you can see when we go back live again. I'm sure we're going to continue with this even on a weekly basis, because there's so many people out there doing amazing work, and I really want to bring them to you. And that we create a community here of people who are really out there making a difference. So thank you again, and good night. Thanks.